Hi everybody, it's me, Tinzley Bradford. I am here today to talk to you about being a single parent and having a hard time getting along with your child, whether it's a son or whether it's a daughter. When they reach a certain age, a lot of times kids tend to become their own person, and especially females. And I have to say this because I'm a parent and I'm a single mom of a daughter. So I do know that many times females are always chasing the same thing, and as the young adult gets older, she's kind of experiencing the things that you as a mother or a young adult once experienced yourself. And we all know some of the stuff we've done as youngsters. We don't want that for our kids. So the state of paranoia may sink in and you start to accuse or assume or think things are going on. And a lot of times you may be right. I wrote a post one day that talked about trusting your gut instinct, because if something doesn't feel quite right, more than likely you're right. It's probably something going on. But it's all about how you handle it and how you take care of it that matters most. So I want to talk about this because it's so important having a positive and healthy relationship with your children. I've had situations where I've read, I've talked to people, and I've witnessed firsthand people not having a positive relationship with their kids, and their kids not having a positive relationship with them, and they just can't seem to see eye to eye. I mean, when it's good, it's good. But then when it becomes so bad, the relationship and trust slowly starts to deteriorate. And it's almost like, you know how you're in an abusive relationship, and for a while the guy or the girl may not hit you, and then when they know they've made you upset, they come show up with roses, or they take you out to eat or buy you some type of beautiful jewelry to try to make up for their actions. So you're thinking in your head, maybe this is over and things are getting better. And just when you thought things were getting better, it starts to come back again, and it escalates to the next level. This is what happens often when you're dealing with your child, and a lot of times both parents are not in the household. Being a single mom is tough because you have to put on your mommy hat and you have to put on your daddy hat. And it's tough because you're trying to fill both shoes by yourself. Now, many people like myself have family and friends to chip in and help out with advice and insight and things that'll make raising your child a lot better and easier. But the only thing they can do is offer their advice or their opinion. They cannot live in the same house with you. They cannot control your actions. They cannot control your child's actions. So you have to know how to do that on your own to make your relationship and keep it positive. I'm going to give you a few tips that what I've done along the way that I know has really made relationship with me and my daughter a lot better. Number one, if you find yourself arguing all the time, and usually you're the one that's picking the argument because you're seeing things in your child that you don't quite like and you don't agree with, you have to take the time to stop analyzing so much. It's okay to be involved. It's important to be involved. But being involved and being critical of your child's every move can be looked at as being negative. And it can give your child a mental state of feeling she or he is not good enough for you, and nothing that he or she ever does will be good enough for you because you're constantly trying to hold them to a certain level that you feel they should be doing. And if they're not meeting that need, it could put some type of stressful pressure on your child, and that's the last thing you want. That pressure then creates rage and frustration because sometimes they're angry at themselves, not necessarily you, for not being what you expected them to be. And a lot of times we as parents don't acknowledge that's what we're doing, but we are. So be mindful when you're trying to see what's going on with your child. Give them time, give them insight, give them advice, but give them time to kind of find their way along the way. And you can always help them along the way. But try not to over scrutinize to the point where it comes across as negative or critical. Be there for your child, but don't expect your child to be you because they're different. Number two, when you're arguing, figure out a way to try to make that argument be something where both sides are heard. Too many times parents and kids are arguing and they just don't hear each other. They don't really hear each other. You know what I mean? Like really hear what each other are saying because everyone's trying to get their point across. And in the end, all you do is walk away with frustration. You're tired from arguing. Your head hurts and you still feel like you didn't get your point across. And kids can look at that as, I'm never heard. No one ever wants to hear what I want to say. No one cares what I think. This is how a lot of kids think, especially teenagers, because they want to know that you care enough about what they may be going through. And keep in mind, kids are not going to tell you everything. So always be mindful of that. You have to stop and listen. Let them finish their statement. Let them finish from A to Z, and then you come in and talk. And I can suggest you saying things like, okay, well, if I listen to you and not interrupt, will you promise to turn around and listen to me and not interrupt? And can we kind of meet in the middle here? And a lot of times when they see you're willing to not try to barge in and fuss over the entire argument, they will allow you to finish. And you know, your relationship and communication piece may be better. Now, don't probe for a whole bunch of information when you're not feeling something's 100%. Kids are sometimes very embarrassed when they're dealing with certain things in their lives, and they just don't want their parents to know right away. I do suggest you do your research, because you don't want a child to be being bullied, or you don't want your child to be using drugs or hanging out with the wrong crowd. And most parents and mothers have that intuition within when they know something's not quite right. It's okay to ask questions, but let's not ask questions and come across as criticizing and accusing. Because the last thing you want to do is panic thinking that your child's doing the wrong thing, and you're going based on assumption alone, and you don't really have any proof or any evidence, and you've not seen them do it. So you could really come across as someone who doesn't trust your child. Now, it's a whole different ball game if you have caught your child in so many lies and your child has not been honest with you. It is kind of challenging to trust them again. You want to give them leeway, you want to trust them, but they're not giving you any reason to trust them. But what you have to do is kind of share with them it's tough on you as a mother, trying to wear both hats, and you want what's best for them because you know that they need that love and embrace from both parents, and sometimes you're trying to do your best. So if they understand where you're coming from and why you may be a little bit more critical and analytical of what they're doing each and every day, and concerned about who they're hanging around or some of the habits they may be picking up, this will allow them to look at you and say, well, you know what, mommy really does care about me. Try not to argue and criticize all day and night, because once again, that only makes your child feel like you're just putting negative stuff inside of their head all the time. Hug your child and tell your child you love them. When they're hurt, when they're upset, when they're sad, and when they're not feeling like they're worthy of anything, hug them and say, look, I love you. I'm here for you. I want you to know that any and everything you need, I love you. I hear you. And I understand you. I was once young too, and I know, even though times have changed, I know how it is coming up as a young adult, wanting to test and try new things, wanting to hang around different people, wanting to be accepted in different groups. Is challenging. But at the same time, you have to continue to stay true to who you are, because if you start hanging around with people who's going to sway you in a different direction, that could make you start to become a different person, and then you're just out there. And finally, when you're dealing with a child who's not really doing good in school, this is what I suggest. As bad as a lot of parents don't want to admit it, sometimes there are alternate methods of learning that some kids just need. If your child's not doing good in high school, maybe figure out another type of program or way your child can still learn and get a high school diploma, but just maybe not in a public high school. There's so many different programs where you can take your child where the classroom is smaller, or there's an alternate learning solution for your child that works best for your child, and he or she can still get 100% credentials as far as a diploma is concerned that any and every college takes. So make sure you keep that in mind as well, because the last thing you want to do is make your child feel like a spectacle because he or she